My name is Michael Flaherty, and I'm a ceramic artist from Port Union, Newfoundland in Canada. And I'm at Artlink as an artist in residence. My primary medium is clay, so I do pottery. I make pottery, and I make sculpture. I do installations with clay. I do experimental practices with clay, performance and photography and video, and mostly with clay. But I'm also experimenting recently with some fiber arts. And so while I'm here at Artlink, I'm doing crochet and weaving, and I've built an experimental loom that is out in the environment and that interacts with the environment, and it's I'm doing sort of a collaboration with the ocean to weave a tapestry on this loom. The call for residency applications at Artlink jumped out at me right away because, well, I'm of Irish heritage. My father immigrated to Canada he lived in Connemara. That's where he grew up. I did have the opportunity to go and visit my dad's old home. So I had a little bit of a family reunion when I got here. And it's still there, it's still standing. His brother lived in it until quite recently. And it was really emotional for me. You know, Dad didn't talk about his home very much. He didn't talk about it very much at all. And he's been gone a few years now. So it was a pretty powerful moment to go and see. I almost immediately had a good idea for the project. So this is kind of a funny story, but the first time I was here, I did a lot of exploring on the beaches, and I didn't realize how drastic the tides are here, and I got stuck on a little island because the tide came in so quickly. And of course in Newfoundland the tides are quite a lot lower. So I wasn't used to that, and I got trapped for a little while. But then that gave me the idea that the tide was so dramatically different here. There's so many common threads between Newfoundland and Ireland, and just this really kind of fundamental natural thing was really quite different for me. And I decided that I wanted to do an art piece that was looking at that and kind of like familiarizing me with the environment here and interacting with the environment in a way that I couldn't do at home. So I came up with this idea to make this loom that interacts with the tides. I made the loom and couldn't even test it at home because the tides aren't high enough to operate the loom. So I brought the loom over with me, not knowing whether it was going to work or whether it was going to just, I don't know, fall apart or not work or who knows. But so far it's worked out pretty good. So I've done some other art projects that have been sort of collaborations with nature or with the environment, or have been out in the environment. So I built a kiln to fire pottery, to fire sculptures that was fired by sunlight. And so I made huge mirrors out of clay on the pottery wheel and coated them with a really shiny gold colored glaze. And I could collect enough sunlight from that object and focus it on a little tiny sculpture, and I could fire the sculptures just with sunlight. And some other projects that I've done, I've been making vessels, pottery vessels, amphoras. That's kind of a traditional pottery shape. Been putting them in the ocean and letting sea life grow on them. And you know, I'm a beachcomber. I spend a lot of time on the beach, walking and exploring, and you often find little bits of pottery or little bits of glass that have coral growing on them or barnacles. And I wanted to replicate that surface, and I think I just wanted to make a piece of pottery that was so long in formation, that was, you know, beyond the duration of a normal, you know, the making process of a normal piece of pottery. And that was sort of made at the pace of, not a human pace, but the pace that the earth works at, or that natural life works at. I think slowness is an important part of my work. And I am a crafts person, I'm a maker, and I see a lot of value in hand making things, and I see a lot of value in the labor of making things. There's an idea, there's the idea of fast food and fast fashion and those industrial scale things, and then there is the opposite of that we should be like taking more time to make good food and to make ethical clothing. I did a project about bicycles. So I work with bicycles quite a lot. I'm a bicycle mechanic. I fix bicycles as an art practice even. So I did a cross-country bicycle trip. And when I say cross-country, I mean across Canada. So across quite a big country. And I visited art centers, and I traveled by bicycle the whole way. And I would set up a bicycle repair shop, and I would invite the public in for free bicycle repairs. And it was about, I think a bicycle is a strong symbol of things like self-reliance and ethical transportation. And I think that, we need to have conversations about doing things slow when the alternative way of doing things the regular way or the fast way is destroying the earth or destroying our bodies or our health or our communities. Yeah, slowness has been a theme in my work for sure, all the way through. I think that the idea of like an original or a unique object is like fundamental to the ethos of craft, the genre, the craft genres, I suppose, like pottery and textiles. In a context of a place like Newfoundland compared to Ireland, or especially somewhere like the UK, where there was this history of manufacturing and industry and things being mass produced like that. I lived in a house recently where it's an older house, all the original furniture was still there, and it was basically all handmade. And I would say not expertly made, but beautifully made, and idiosyncratic, and not necessarily like flawlessly functional, but quite beautiful and comfortable, and just those are kind of fulfilling objects to be around. Somebody cared about them. I grew up in a family and in a community that had, in the previous generation had rejected handmade objects, and maybe even kind of looked down on them as symbols of the past or of regression. And I think that a lot of people in my age now look back at their family history and are rediscovering the value of handmade objects and things like producing your own food, and the ethos of being self-reliant. There are a lot of young Newfoundlanders. I'll call myself a young Newfoundlander who have gone and moved away, and then they're moving back to Newfoundland, and they're bringing back that sort of craft ethos, or a connection to craft, or to things like folk knowledge, or seeing the value of folk knowledge that I feel like disappeared for a generation or two, as Newfoundland was sort of absorbed into Canada and the wider kind of world of globalism. So I made my application to Artlink in 2019, and then I was selected to be a resident artist in March of 2020, and then everything went upside down for a little while. Now it's 2 years later, I'm finally here, so I'm really grateful for that. My original proposal was that I was going to build clay structures in the ocean and have them not fired, and they would have sort of like rope or lines embedded in them. And then when the tide would come in, the clay would crumble and the lines would do something. I didn't have it much more thought through than that, how it was going to work logistically or technically. So over the intervening 2 years, which was quite a lot of time, I started crocheting. I did like a lot more research with the weaving, and I started building actual looms, and like really rudimentary looms at first, and then getting more and more complex, and basically arriving at the same conclusions that weavers have for hundreds of years. My loom ended up being really similar to a regular loom. I spent many years traveling back and forth across Canada and the US, working in different places and cities, and always wanted to return to Newfoundland. And you know, I'm living somewhere even more remote now than where I'm originally from. Donegal doesn't feel remote to me. It feels pretty cosmopolitan, actually, compared to where I am. I've done other projects, though, that have brought me to really remote areas. So one year I lived on a deserted island off the north coast of Newfoundland for 3 months, just by myself, with a herd of caribou. And I built a kiln out there, a wood-fired pottery kiln, and it's still there. It was also sort of an earth art piece, you know, it's part of the landscape there now, and kind of a conceptual ceramic art piece as well. Yeah, I mean, community is a big and important thing for me, and I love being around other artists, but I could also just spend weeks walking back and forth on a beach or through the forest, or just living outdoors. And not that I'm antisocial, but I think that being connected to the world and nature you can get distracted by people, I suppose. And I like to make that more pure and direct connection when I'm able.